dear.
Good morning. I'm Andy.
Yeah, and I'm Mark, just drinking my tea.
And this is Strange Stuff Podcast. I nearly forgot who I was then.
Have you got a bad cold?
I have, my throat is killing me. I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Oh dear.
Also, as soon as we're finished, I'm doing Richard as well.
Oh dear. That's not good.
But luckily, he's taking the lead on that one.
So all right, good.
I could just sit and snack.
Like what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, taking the easy job.
Some say it's easy, but I find it quite challenging.
Yeah, years of training went into your snackage.
It's a crazy old world we live in, Andy.
What's going on now?
Well, it couldn't get much worse, could it?
Well, I understand that Trump has decided to divide Ukraine up without consulting Zelensky.
Actually, it's far, far worse than that. It's so much worse than that I think that his negotiations with Zelensky about Ukraine is just a deflection from what really happened last week that no one is reporting. Haven't seen any mention of it in any of the media outlets, BBC, LBC, nothing.
And that is
that Trump took total control of all government agencies on Tuesday of last week by executive order. Literally, it says in black and white, it's on the White House website because I had to actually read it myself. I thought it was a fake document that someone had made. It's on the White House website. Every single government agency is now under the direct control of Donald Trump. If people don't agree with his policies, they're fired. So that is all of them. That's not just environment and all of that sort of thing. There's about 50 of them, 45, 50 of them.
Does that include the likes of the CIA and the FBI?
Everything. They're not regulatory. Trump is automatically the head of the CIA and the FBI. These are regulatory authorities that were...
the FBI actually no.
Or maybe not.
J. Edgar Hoover was the head of the FBI for 50 years.
No, these are the bodies that were established to protect against
Donald Trump
corruption and to act independently of the president's office, specifically to protect the people of the USA. And now, by executive order, Trump has taken control of everything: hiring, firing, policy, everything. And it's unreported. No one has mentioned it. It's on Tuesday, the 18th of February. It's on the White House website.
It's unreported because he's banned all the reporters from the conferences.
But it's sort of getting beyond, it's getting beyond entertaining. We'll see. Macron is meeting with him this week, as is Starmer.
Oh, three bigger losers you couldn't picture in one room.
You certainly hope not, Andy, because you need more than losers to stand up against someone like Trump and Putin. And what's this? I think this is bollocks, but ridiculous. Krashkov. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's the KGB's code name for Trump. He was recruited 40 years ago, apparently.
I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised.
No, I mean, with what he's doing, you wouldn't be in the least surprised.
Well, on to a lighter note, have you noticed that I've actually given you a title this week?
Loser. Yeah, that's right. I might be the loser because I'm closer to Stockholm. I think Skellefteå is reasonably safe from any incoming American or Russian fighters.
I don't know. I mean, we're quite close to the invasion zone.
Are you?
I guess so. I mean...
Well, you're close to Finland, which I suppose is close to Russia. Norway even borders Russia.
If I'm lucky, they'll send over the 11th Battalion of Russian lap dancers to invade Wallachia.
You might be lucky. I wouldn't be surprised if the European countries start. What is it when you get dragged into the army? Conscription.
Conscription?
Yeah.
No way. To do what? Honestly, there's going to be no hand-to-hand fighting in the next World War.
Why? What's happening in Ukraine? That's hand-to-hand fighting.
Yeah, that's not a world war. That's a skirmish. If Europe as a whole goes to war again, first of all the influencers of fighting age will throw their now varnished hands in the air and refuse to put on anything in those colours.
Yep.
Can you imagine sending those fucking simps off to fight for the country?
What's a simp?
Having a laugh. Well, influencers, basically. People who spend more time worrying about how their hair looks on camera. How many likes will I get for killing a Russian?
Yes, you're right. No. So, the situation is deteriorating, in my mind, very fast. And it doesn't seem... I mean, obviously the Americans aren't aware of what's going on because the media is controlled primarily by the right. And those on the left are too frightened to say anything because they just end up like AP News. They just don't get allowed into press conferences.
Oh, well, time to sit back and just collect your wages.
Yeah, you're right. You hope. I don't know what the demand for electric cars is going to be.
Well, in England, pretty low, considering the price of electricity has quadrupled. It's probably more expensive than petrol now to charge a car.
Oh, no, but it is. If you charge at a public charging station, it's more expensive to run an electric car than it is a petrol car.
Oh, that was a great invention then. I mean, it was predicted by me and many others that as soon as electric cars became viable, the price of electricity would go through the roof.
Yeah,
because they've got to replace their petrol tax from somewhere.
Yeah. No, but yes, unfortunately, it's not going to the government. It's going to the French government in terms of the UK. EDF, Electricité de France.
I mean, to be honest, we need a Donald Trump to take back all our... Make the UK great again. Grab back our infrastructure.
You're insane. So all of the evidence that's in front of your eyes of what's happening in the States... How many of those federal government employees, those hundreds of thousands of federal government employees voted for Trump and are now losing their job as a result of it?
Are they losing their jobs, though? Or are they just sitting there getting paid?
What?
Are they
not
losing
reading
their jobs?
The newspaper?
No, I don't. I fucking hate the news.
Tens of thousands of them have already been laid off. Elon Musk sends an email on yesterday, saying... If you can't justify your job and you don't respond to this email in the next week, we will take that as your resignation. That's to every single federal employee in America.
Well, the administration on that would take months, so they've got a little bit of grace.
Elon Musk is sitting in the Oval Office talking about all of these people, this ludicrous 40 million condoms to Afghanistan. I mean, he will literally say anything as stupid as Trump. He was talking about we're paying pensions to people that are 150 years old. Now, he's supposed to be a tech man. And apparently, if the date is input incorrectly or the computer doesn't read it properly, it defaults to 1845 as a date of birth. He's a tech man. He should know these things. And he's
not a tech man, though, is he?
Well, yeah. What do you mean? He started PayPal.
He stole the idea from somebody else.
No, he was writing code very early on.
I don't know. I don't think he's clever enough.
Well, you don't know how much the ketamine has affected his brain. What does ketamine do to you?
Well, it's a horse tranquilizer.
I know,
So,
but I mean, he's a self-confessed ketamine. What do you call it when you're addicted? Addicted. What?
well, I mean, obviously, I don't know because I don't do drugs.
No,
But
but you know what people do. Why do people do ketamine?
because it puts you out of body experience. It's
Is that
like
what it does?
surfing on the roof.
Well, you saw him with the chainsaw, didn't you?
No,
You didn't see him on stage a couple of days ago wielding a
I,
chainsaw.
I literally am 5 steps back from everything that's going on.
Oh. Well, it's lucky you've got me here to remind you so you stop saying stupid things like we need Trump in England.
We need Trump.
We
need
need people to
Trumpification.
shoot Trump in England.
Yeah, at least we'd probably hit him.
Well, others have failed, unfortunately.
That's what I mean. Get a good English sniper on him.
You know, isn't it ridiculous? I can't believe I'm saying things like that. He's the president of the United States, but he's not. He doesn't deserve to be treated with the respect the president's office should get.
Well, it's not getting any respect, is it? As you say, Elon Musk is in there in his T-shirt and jeans, spitting in the corner, and his son's wiping bogies on the desk, calling everyone fuck off.
The thing that I couldn't understand was why Elon Musk, as a Nazi, is able to tolerate the Jewish contingent within the States.
Is he a Nazi? I mean, are you just reading the Sun now?
What?
What do you mean he's a Nazi?
You didn't see him on stage do the Nazi salute 3 times.
Come on, you could freeze frame most people.
Are you
on
trying
stage.
to wind me up, Andy?
No. Were you telling me he
people
stood
like you
there
that
and
worry
went,
me.
See
You
Kyle.
can't be so fucking stupid that with your own eyes you see someone do a Nazi.
I haven't
maybe it wasn't a Nazi
seen
salute.
it.
Maybe he was waving to his mother. Well, then don't comment.
No,
Just
I have
shut
to
up
comment
about it.
No, because it could be that
Seriously.
someone's caught him freeze framed in a particular position. That doing
It
that
was
all
on
the time.
video. 3 times he did the Nazi salute. His grandfather was a member of the not fascist Canadian Party, but the Nazi Party in Canada, and left for South Africa because he supported the concept of the white, what was it called in South Africa?
Apartheid.
Apartheid. He's a Nazi. He doesn't even hide it. So anyway, back to my question. I was wondering why he tolerates the Jewish community in America. And then I realized that having spent most of his formative years up until the age of 17, 18 in South Africa, it's the blacks he hates. He's focusing all his hatred on the blacks.
Well,
and funnily enough, the head of the army, what happened to him? He got sacked yesterday. What colour is he? Black. The woman, the head of the Navy, she got sacked. She's a woman. It's it's happening in front of our eyes. It's unbelievable. And, unfortunately, not wanting to be critical of you particularly, but you've got to get in the, the loop as to what's actually happening.
When they sacked
Otherwise, you're as bad as an influencer.
When fuck off.
You are.
When they sacked the head of the army and the head of the navy,
yes,
did they replace him with an 89-year-old white man?
I don't think they're 89.
Because that would be rather telling.
No, he's not 89. No, I mean, we'll see. I hope that literally in 6 months' time we're all having a good laugh and it's all being toned down. But he is in charge of the election committee. Not committee, what do you call it? The Department for the Election, who's responsible for future elections.
Department of Electoral Oversight.
Exactly, thank you. He's in charge of it now. Anybody who doesn't toe the line, they're out of their jobs.
How long before his executive order says presidents can now run indefinitely?
No, but that's literally the point. Why would he do it? It's literally on the cards that he doesn't leave office.
Yeah,
he didn't want to leave office last time.
Neither did Biden, though.
What?
Neither did Biden.
What are you talking about? Biden left?
Yeah, under protest.
What do you mean under protest?
People were telling him to leave for 6 months before he finally left. He was
That was before he
asleep.
even ran for the election.
He was asleep all the time.
It was Camilla Harris that actually signed Trump in, if you recall, because she did what the Constitution calls for. Well, who was the deputy? Who was the vice president when Trump was in power? Who was that fellow?
No idea.
The ones that the rioters wanted to lynch.
No idea.
I can't remember what his name was. His previous vice president. Anyway, so you didn't hear Vance's speech either?
No. I've got no interest in them.
Oh, I mean, you do live remote. I mean, you are sufficiently far away, I think that, well, having said that, looking at the map, you're very close, surprisingly, to the Russian border. You're much closer than I am to the Russian border. I've got the whole of Finland in the way. All they need to do is go over the top.
All they need to do is activate me.
Now, I can imagine some people as sleepers, but I can't imagine you, of all people, Andy. They chose to be a sleeper, a mole.
I will go back to the fatherland.
Fatherland. Oh, my God. Isn't the world crazy? Anyway, we've still got the internet.
Yeah, actually, I didn't have on Monday, I think it was. I came home from work and I had zero internet, no Wi-Fi, nothing.
Here's do you? I suppose you don't. You know what ChatGPT is?
Yeah, of course. And I don't.
You don't use it?
No.
Good. Because someone in my acquaintance made an inquiry about Elon Musk's sponsors and connected companies, and the response was
classified.
Your account has now been flagged for inappropriate activity. Can you imagine?
Yeah, Big Brother, man.
Your account has been flagged for inappropriate activity.
Well, it is inappropriate, isn't it? Asking relevant questions. How dare
You're right.
you?
Apparently, the fellow who has ChatGPT is a good mate of Musk's.
Well, this is why they got their panties in a twist when this Chinese company came up with a much cheaper, much simpler alternative.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I don't know what's happened to that. The board has probably been annihilated.
Then they said, how dare these Chinese base their AI model on using our data, which they stole from us. So, like, what's your point? You stole it. Why can't they steal it? Fuck you.
Oh. Anyway, I've been a bit worked up this week, as you can imagine.
Well,
I've got grandchildren. If you have grandchildren, you wait and see how your attitude changes.
It won't change because there's nothing I can do.
Of course there is.
What? Take arms? Take
What
up
do you mean?
arms?
We are social media kings, for God's sake.
What are you going to do?
Just drawing it to people's attention is doing something, isn't it?
Yeah, but nobody cares. This is the problem. We live in a world of apathy.
No, but I'll tell you what, those thousands of federal workers are not being so apathetic because they're all on social media saying this is ridiculous. I didn't vote Trump in for him to sack me. I mean, completely self-interested, but what's wrong with that?
You still voted him in. I mean,
yeah.
Just in fact, because you voted him in, you kind of deserve to get sacked.
Well, you could say that, but yeah.
I mean,
anyway. So now
it was funny the first time around.
No. But I mean, I was saying, I thought we were going to be well entertained. We were going to have 4 years of easy entertainment. But the thing is, the situation has gone so fast and it's deteriorated so quickly that it's sort of beyond entertainment, unfortunately, because I have grandchildren who have to live in this world. Now, we've gone 20 minutes. I want to finish this Silk Road thing, and I want you to be definitely... Justice was done. He's behind bars for 52 years or whatever it was.
That isn't justice, is it?
152 years. How long did he end up in prison for?
We'll find out. Anyway,
All right.
last week we got up to this chap with the stupid name, Jacob Theodore George.
Yeah, I'm
the
not so
fourth.
interested in this fellow.
Well, you have to be, because it was his computer that gave them the in to track down the big kahunas of
But I
the
thought
Silk
they'd already located him. They knew where he was, and they know who he.
Yeah, but they
who he
now
was.
got access to all his biggest customers and his biggest suppliers, because with Theodore's passwords, they could get it all over the place.
Yeah.
So law enforcement in the US and abroad continued to hunt Dread Pirate Roberts' top sellers. And in July 2012, American officials arrested a chap called Paul Leslie Howard, who'd only been active on the site for a few months, but he'd been trafficking in methamphetamine, cocaine, MDMA, LSD, and marijuana when he was caught.
I don't know what that is. Oh, marijuana. Idiot. Yep.
Hey guys, I'm just starting out here. He posted after registering as a vendor. I'm Australian based and only shipping to Oz so as not to roach on anyone's turf. I'll be basically doing Dutch Speed and Peruvian Charlie to start, branch out into more as I get coin back in my pocket. Now, packages were intercepted by customs and border agents in Australia that had been sent to Howard's home from the Netherlands and Germany. And when caught, they found 2,300 Australian dollars in cash, a money counter, optimistic, digital scales, marijuana, and 35 stun guns. Disguised.
Hang on a second, 2,300 Aussie dollars. That's nothing. I carry that in
I
my
know.
wallet. What is
about 30 quid?
No, it's not actually. It's more. It's more. It's about 700 quid actually. I don't carry anything in my wallet.
So he had these 35 stun guns disguised as mobile phones, which could be dangerous if your phone rings and you're drunk. Hello? Bang!
Stun guns disguised as mobile phones?
Yeah, so it looks like a telephone, but it's a
All right.
taser.
So he's a weapons dealer as well.
Clearly. So they also found a digital trail of his activities in the form of nearly 20,000 messages on 2 real phones that were seized from him. One of his messages read, "I got 5 grand's worth if you want." Sorry, this is going to kill me today. I'm promoting the LSD. I've got more in. I sold 200 cubes last week. No cubes left at the moment, but got some other stuff you might like. Now, Howard's attorney later told an Australian court that his client had joined the black market site after a business website he was running failed. In order to support his family, he made the naive, stupid, and foolish decision to import and deal illegal drugs. So he pleaded guilty in January 2013 to possessing a controlled weapon and importing and trafficking in controlled substances. And in February, his was the first conviction in the Silk Road case. Before his arrest in 2012, an undercover agent on the task force in the US had been working towards building a relationship with Dread Pirate Roberts, the owner of Silk Road. Anonymity had been something that Ulbricht had taken great steps to ensure, and so his numerous mistakes gave investigators the clues that helped connect together the pieces of the Silk Road puzzle, leading directly to Ulbricht. But possibly the most damning charge against him was the alleged plot to murder a former employee of his international multi-million-dollar drugs marketplace by a man who turned out to be an undercover cop.
So why did he want to murder this fellow?
With great power comes great responsibility. I mean, if you're running a site that advertises hitmen for hire, you might get a bit curious. And if one of your buddies pisses you off a bit, if you've got a few dollars lying around, why not check it out? I mean, if it was as simple as just picking up the phone, there'd be a few bodies lying around here, I can tell you.
Yeah, you'd be at the bottom of the pile, I think, Andy.
In December of this year, 2012, the agent had told Dread Pirate Roberts that he was looking to sell large quantities of coke, and DRP referred him to a Silk Road administrator who was tasked with helping the seller locate a vendor who could handle this scale of work. The vendor eventually did purchase a kilo of coke from the undercover cop, which I think they should be prosecuted for, to be honest, for selling a kilo of coke. Fucking entrapment. I just do not like that. But the delivery address that he gave the agent led to the home of Curtis Clark Green, who authorities believe was the Silk Road administrator who had been tasked with finding the vendor for the deal. Now, Green was a 47-year-old grandfather.
That's quite young.
Yeah, but it is in Utah.
All
so
right.
Might have been a Mormon, probably a grandfather at 30.
Could have been. Actually, could have been.
Yeah.
No. 16,
yes.
Isn't it? No.
What, with the Mormons? 12.
Really?
They married him off as young as 12. It's ridiculous. Illegal and paedophilia, by the way. So he had joined the site in 2011 and he went by the username Flush and also Chronic Pain. Green acknowledged to authorities that he received a salary beginning in November to take on customer service duties for Silk Road. He was only in the role for 2 months when federal agents raided his home on January 17th in 2013. And this was the first arrest of a Silk Road administrator, something that was a major success for investigators, who then gained access to private messages that Silk Road users had sent to each other. They also had the details of transactions and information about the Bitcoin accounts of administrators and users, including the account of Silk Road's alleged owner, Ross Ulbricht. It's not known exactly how, but Dread Pirate Roberts found out about his former admin's arrest. Officials say it was possible the admin had told him out of a sense of loyalty, but it would eventually lead to a bizarre murder-for-hire plot. Fearing his former admin would provide details about the operation and claiming that he had stolen money, Dread Pirate Roberts contacted the undercover agent posing as a drug dealer and initially asked him to torture Flush, but later decided this wasn't enough. Through court documents from the state of Maryland, it is alleged that Ulbricht communicated with the undercover cop via the internet and told the undercover cop that the employee had been arrested by law enforcement and that the employee had stolen funds from other Silk Road users. Ulbricht apparently told him, "I'd like him beat up," before changing the order the next day to execute rather than torture. He initially agreed.
Sorry, this is the pirate fellow. This is what's his name? Not Jan
Ross Ulbricht.
Ross Ulbricht.
Yeah.
So he is the one that has ordered the execution of
this administrator chap.
Right. And this is the fellow that you said shouldn't be in prison.
Come on, stop being pedantic. He shouldn't. He shouldn't.
I'm just trying to keep a track of the story. I mean, even you have your limits.
He shouldn't be in prison for the website.
But he should be in prison because he tried to hire someone to kill.
Obviously, if you're going to try and get someone murdered, then there is hell to pay. But he initially agreed to pay 80 grand for the admin. Yeah, I would do it.
That's a lot, isn't it, in America? I mean, I don't know. I've never tried to hire anybody, but
you can get a crackhead to do it for a tenner.
Where would you pitch it? You know, a bloke in the street to assassinate another bloke in the street. I would have said 5 grand or something.
But no, because 5 grand only covers you for 5 grand's worth of silence insurance. You have to pay big to keep quiet. You need a pro.
Maybe.
So 80 grand for the admin's death, and apparently agreed to make 2 payments of 40k each for the murder of the employee, half now and half after the job is done. So it was very professional. Investigators staged the torture and murder, which included mock waterboarding, and they sent these videos to Dread Pirate Roberts. About half a dozen of these pictures, including photographs and videos, depicting what they claimed was his corpse. And upon being shown these photos of the employee being tortured, Ulbricht wrote confessing that he was a little bit disturbed and that he was new to this kind of thing. And with this apparent evidence, he duly paid up.
The other 40 grand.
Yeah. So law enforcement officials refused to confirm if Green was the admin that Ulbricht allegedly paid to have killed. But when asked to describe how the dead in apostrophes, admin looked in the staged images, one official said he looked very pale. Now, while most sellers traded exclusively in drugs, others were open into branching out into more illegal activities. And on June 28th, 2013, a federal search warrant was executed at a residence in Lincoln, Nebraska, which belonged to 23-year-old Sheldon Kennedy. Agents recovered 10 firearms, ammunition, and various controlled substances, including barbital powder, phenazepam, ethylphenidate, ketamine, etiquolone, Xanax, Valium, and heroin. Now, I haven't heard of some of those. The trail that led to Kennedy was a UPS express mail package from China that was intercepted on January the 6th and opened in San Francisco during a border search.
That turned out to be
all of the above.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah.
Now, the package was being sent to Kennedy in Nebraska, and it was found to contain 55 grams of 4-fluoramphetamine, which is a psychoactive drug and research chemical similar to MDMA or ecstasy. And as a result of this, agents began actively investigating Kennedy as part of the Silk Road inquiry. And in February 2013, undercover agents of the Baltimore Task Force bought contraband from Kennedy on Silk Road, who used the alias Edgar Numbers to sell coke and a pistol. Further investigation found that he was not licensed to sell firearms. Despite the anonymity offered to users of Silk Road, he was known to post pictures of himself online using social media such as Facebook and Google+, where he advertised firearms, firearm accessories, and large amounts of US currency for sale, which I'm guessing is fake currency. Kennedy also admitted selling at least 38 grams of cocaine, all of which were bought using Bitcoin. Soon, Kennedy began cooperating with law enforcement, which he would, because otherwise they're going to stitch him up for 5,000 years in prison. He voluntarily provided agents with access to his Silk Road account, email accounts, and the electronic records that detailed shipping information, including names and addresses for the sale of his drugs and firearms. He also provided control of his financial accounts used to control his criminal activities, including an account on the online Bitcoin exchange mtgox.com. For his involvement with Silk Road, he was sentenced in November 2015 to 2 years in prison. Which is a lot, I think, for 38 grams of cocaine. Fucking hell.
I don't even know what 38 grams is an ounce.
Yeah, it's just over an ounce. It's like
what
small
does that
potatoes.
look like? What does it look like? What does an ounce of cocaine look like?
No,
is it sort of
that.
I was going to say, is it sort of like an AirPod case?
Yeah, it's in a plastic bag. It's very small. Additional arrests soon followed, including that of Stephen Lloyd Sadler and Jenna White in 2013 July, who were described as Silk Road's Bonnie and Clyde. Under the nickname Nod, Sadler was in the top 1% of sellers on the site, and during the last 4 months of Silk Road's existence, he'd sold more than 2,600 grams of cocaine, nearly 600 grams of heroin, and 100 grams of methamphetamine.
And is that Again, is 2.6 kilos, is that an awful lot of drugs, or is it just sort of...
You know, a kilo of cocaine would cost around about, and I'm going off the top of my head and probably 20 years out of date, but I would say £28,000.
All right, so it's not
That would cost,
you're still
that's
talking
what it
less
would
than
cost me for a kilo. But then by the time I'd sold it on, you're probably going to almost double that.
Yeah, but it's 100, 200,000 sterling.
Yeah, it's small potatoes. It really is. When you consider the bigger scheme of things, this is
Yeah.
what this operation cost would, it just can't be justified.
I wonder how many tons of opioid the Sackler family shipped out on a daily basis.
Thousands. Worldwide. Thousands.
Hmm.
So after investigators performed a controlled purchase of drugs through the Nod account, Sadler's home in Bellevue, Washington was raided and searched in 2013, and there they seized cocaine, heroin, meth, a .45 caliber pistol, and other contraband. I don't think there's anything illegal about having a .45 caliber pistol in Washington somehow.
No, I thought it was, you can have weapons wherever you like in America.
I thought it was compulsory.
Almost, yeah. I think you're right.
So arrested alongside Sadler was his girlfriend and roommate, Jenna White, who was also charged with drug offences. Initially, Sadler had cooperated with investigators and he was let out on bail pending charges. One of the biggest sellers on Silk Road was a vendor who went by the name of Super Trips. And he was responsible for selling 104 kilos of powdered MDMA, 566,000 ecstasy pills, 4 kilos of coke, 3 kilos of benzodiazepine, and substantial quantities of amphetamine, LSD, and marijuana during the 18 months that he operated on the marketplace. But again, it's not massive amounts.
Well, that sounded quite a lot, actually. So all of these people are getting arrested. Are we just going to go through a list of all these people getting arrested? When does Pirate Bay Man get, what do you call, knock on the door? When does he get a knock on? No, when does he get his collar felt?
Soon. So Super Trips became known as the Pablo Escobar of Silk Road. So he was the biggest dealer on Silk Road, and it wasn't that big.
And did he go to prison? Or did he get off for his cooperation?
Well, in August 2013, he was only 22. He was born in the Netherlands, and he was picked up by federal agents in South Beach as he was driving his newly rented Lamborghini. Found to be in possession of a stash of E's, he was clearly ready to party when he was apprehended. According to the FBI, the Dutchman, known by his pseudonym Super Trips, had received approximately 385,000 bitcoins as payment for his drug sales.
Holy shit, even in those days, that must have been worth a fortune.
Roughly $170 million.
In those days, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's probably gone up 100 times since then.
Probably. On May 29th, 2015, he was sentenced in Chicago to 10 years in prison. Authorities are now closing in on the dread pirate, Roberts.
Well, let's hope it hurries up. I want to see him behind bars.
Now, when Homeland Security agents arrived at San Francisco's 15th Street, which was Dread Pirate Roberts' address, remember, after intercepting his package from Canada with the fake IDs, they came face to face with Ulbricht without knowing his affiliation to Silk Road. The package contained 9 fake IDs, each with a different name but bearing his photograph. And investigators wondered why he would need 9 fake IDs, to which would be answered through an earlier posting on the Silk Road forums. Dread Pirate Roberts explained that he needed a fake ID to rent servers. Tarbell adds that server hosting companies often require customers to provide some form of ID in order to validate who they are. This was yet another mistake by Ulbricht, because in order to post a photocopy of a fake ID to a server hosting company, he was not required to put a photograph bearing his real face on it, because it was done online. But there you are. So this mistake, coupled with the use of his Altoid username to post messages advertising Silk Road on another forum, and then using the same nickname to post on a Bitcoin forum seeking workers for a startup, had confirmed their suspicions that Ulbricht was in fact Dread Pirate Roberts. In the later message, Altoid told would-be job applicants to contact him at rossulbricht@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
So, what an idiot.
What an idiot.
In July 2013, authorities identified an overseas hosting company used to host the Silk Road site and obtained an image of the server, giving them access to all the private messages on the site. FBI agents finally arrested Ulbricht on October 2013 in the science fiction section of the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library. He was charged with conspiracy, drug, and money laundering charges.
Oh, so they went straight in. So they actually charged him with, I call it the right crimes. They didn't charge him with having multiple fake IDs or something stupid like that.
I mean, as we discussed last time, unless you actually use a fake ID, you're committing no crime.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, good point.
He would also face a grand jury indictment in Maryland for conspiracy to commit murder, which was the most serious charge against him. With the arrest of Dread Pirate Roberts, the Silk Road marketplace was shut down more or less permanently. After more than 2 years and allegedly 1.2 billion in transactions, the more than 950,000 registered users were locked out. Investigators now doubled down on their efforts to find the main dealers that operated on the dark web emporium. 4 other suspects were arrested in the UK, one in his 50s and the others in their 20s.
Do you think the vast majority of the people that were using it were sort of hardened criminals, or were they just sort of, 22-year-old students trying to make an extra money?
They were little entrepreneurs. I mean, hardened criminals can barely operate a smartphone. They're not going to be on the dark web setting up their companies.
I think you live in a dream world. I think hardened criminals are quite sophisticated these days, aren't they? I mean, they can afford to employ geeks do sophisticated things.
Yeah, but this was a whole new enterprise. And it was just, as you can see by the people who were arrested, they're mostly in their 20s.
Here's an aside, just going back to Elon. He has a team, and this I haven't verified. He has a team of 5 people working for him in the White House. And they are between, what ages would you guess?
18 and 21.
Very close, 19 and 25. And they are the ones
and this is a problem.
That are orchestrating all of the executive orders in terms of emailing every single federal employee. I wonder how many there are.
This is a problem because all of these geeks, they might be technologically very bright, but they have no life experience whatsoever.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes.
It's very...
Anyway, so sorry, he's been arrested. I want to know does he defend himself? Does he say, "Oh, fair cop, mate"?
Well, I'm going to skip a lot now because you're doing me noggin in. So we're going to go.
Well, what do you mean? You've got 27 minutes to go. Oh,
yeah,
no, you've got 17 minutes to go.
Got quite a lot to cover though. So
go for it.
We're going to go directly to the trial of the Dread.
Yeah, that's what I wanted all along. Are you going to have a good lawyer or something exchange?
Well, Ulbricht's
trial, my lord.
Ulbricht's trial began on January 13th, 2015, and he was charged with running a multi-million-dollar online illegal marketplace. Specific charges, including engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise, narcotics trafficking, money laundering, and computer hacking.
But hang on. And
we haven't got to the murder.
All right.
At the start of the trial, Ulbricht admitted to founding the Silk Road marketplace, but he claimed that soon afterwards he transferred control of the site to other people.
Oh, yes.
The question of whether Albrecht was Dread Pirate Roberts was an integral part of the case against him. His defence alleged that the Dread Pirate Roberts was not Albrecht, but Mark Karpeles, who himself had been arrested in August 2015, several months prior to Albrecht.
No, Albrecht was arrested in October 2013. His trial started in 2015.
Oh, I'm not going to scroll back because it's too far.
All right. Anyway, yep. So he's deflecting onto someone else.
Yeah, Karpeles was the former CEO of Bitcoin exchange mt.gox. And he had been arrested by Japanese police on suspicion of having accessed the exchange's computer system in order to falsify data on its outstanding balance. He was later rearrested and charged with embezzlement. Karpeles had previously been suspected of being Dread Pirate Roberts in 2012 to 13 by the Department of Homeland Security.
Did you know that there was a Bitcoin exchange that got hacked the other day in Japan, as I recall?
Really? How much did they lose?
600 million.
It's just like, it's not real money, is it?
But the founder of the exchange said that he had enough money to cover it. He's just had $600 million, 600 million US just lying around.
Oh, luckily I've got it in my kitchen.
Exactly. Exactly.
So his defence alleged that... Oh, yeah, we've done that. The claim that Karpeles had set up Albrecht as his fall guy was publicly denied by him on Twitter, because that's where you do your defence these days. Judge Catherine B. Forrest then ruled that any speculative statements regarding who ran Silk Road, whether it was Albrecht or Karpeles, would not be allowed, and any statements already made on the subject were stricken from the record. During the second week of trial, prosecutors presented chat logs and documents from Albrecht's computers that they said demonstrated that he had administered the site for many months. Ross Albrecht made a point of logging all of his encrypted Tor hidden chats, and he kept a diary along with an accounting spreadsheet that recorded all of the financial transactions undertaken on his Silk Road account. In one of the many log chats, Dread Pirate Roberts is shown making sure that his employee, Andrew Michael Jones, also known as Inigo, isn't logging his Tor chats. Inigo claims that he wouldn't do something so stupid, unlike the Dread Pirate Roberts. At the time of his arrest, Albrecht was caught in the library, connected to the library Wi-Fi with his laptop open, which allowed investigators to access the files on his computer. His defense attorney suggested that the documents and chat logs had been planted there through use of BitTorrent, which had been running on Albrecht's computer at the time of his arrest. BitTorrent is a program that I used to use. Well, not me personally, but people used to use to download films from the Pirate Bay. So it's a way of, it's a peer-to-peer connection. So you get two computers talking and transfer files from one to the other. I would never do something like that myself.
That sounds a bit dodgy. So what control do you have of what is being downloaded onto your computer?
Oh, there's a lot of good faith. I mean, especially where the Pirate Bay was concerned, at least you had trusted uploaders, trusted users that you knew that if they uploaded a film, it was definitely that film.
And it wasn't kiddie porn or something?
No. On basis of the charges against him, Albrecht was facing a maximum of 40 years in prison for possessing with the intent of distributing more than 1 kilo of coke. The jury convicted Albrecht of 7 charges, including money laundering, conspiracy to commit computer hacking, and conspiracy to traffic narcotics. And on May 29th, 2015, he was sentenced to double life imprisonment plus 40 years without the possibility of parole.
So sorry, the prosecution were asking for 40 years, or that was the what? Where was the
No,
what?
that was the maximum for possessing with the intent to distribute just a kilo of cocaine.
And so, how could the judge possibly have given him two 40-year sentences and two life sentences
So
and plus 40 years?
because there was so much more. They convicted him of
Ah.
7 charges, not just 1.
Oh, I see. All right. Sorry, I was just not keeping up.
According to sources, before the trial, Albrecht had been offered a plea deal which would have given him a 10-year sentence, but he turned it down, deciding instead to fight the case in court.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I wonder what the plea deal was.
10 years.
Oh, that was the plea deal. 10 years.
Yeah.
So he could have been he could have been out in 5,
Probably.
and he chose to fight it.
Yep.
Well, he doesn't seem so smart then.
Well, he would
must
appeal.
have known that he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah, but I mean, it was.
And if he'd been sent to prison, they may have forgotten the attempted murder charge.
The investigation was corrupt anyway, but we'll get to that. Albrecht would appeal his conviction and sentence to the US Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in January 2016, based primarily on the claims that the prosecution illegally withheld evidence of the DEA agents' malfeasance in the investigation of Silk Road, for which 2 agents were later convicted. The decision was issued in May 2017, with Albrecht's conviction and life sentence upheld. In December 2017, he filed a petition for certiorari with the United States Supreme Court, and this was later declined on June 28, 2018. But luckily, Trump was on his white Charger, heading towards Albrecht. In 2019, he attempted one last bid for freedom by requesting to vacate his life sentence based on a claim of ineffective assistance of counsel by his defense lawyers. And this attempt was later rejected in August 2019. The following year, it was reported that President Trump considered commuting Albrecht's sentence before leaving office, but he actually decided against it. Although the infamous Dread Pirate Roberts was behind bars, the Silk Road story hadn't quite reached its conclusion. So these investigators, 1 month after Albrecht's sentencing, authorities announced that the arrest of 2 federal officers in connection with the Silk Road investigation, DEA agent Karl Mark Force IV, fuck off, and Sean Bridges, an agent of the Secret Service, were both arrested on charges of corruption, money laundering, obstruction of justice, and extortion. Force and Bridges, there's a TV series in there somewhere,
Yep.
had been part of the Silk Road Task Force, which was the multi-agency and multi-jurisdictional law enforcement effort to bring down the Silk Road and arrest Dread Pirate Roberts. And as part of this investigation, both of these federal agents had committed numerous crimes in what would prove to be a deeply and embarrassing situation for the government, and yet another bizarre episode in the downfall of the Silk Road. Only during the sentencing hearings in October 2015 did some of the details become known about the investigation into Agents Force and Bridges, and those were only the crimes which authorities were certain that they had committed. Their involvement with the case began in June 2011, when the Silk Road Task Force was established in Baltimore to investigate and bring down the administrators. And starting in 2012 and continuing until late 2013, Force used a wide variety of aliases to access the Silk Road forums, and alternated between extorting Dread Pirate Roberts and also selling him information on the task force investigation.
So you mean as a result of that fellow's activity, Pirate was able to delay his arrest?
Yes. And know what they were, where their investigation was focused. He was accused of seizing Bitcoin as part of the DEA inquiry and then laundering it into his own personal accounts rather than handing it over to the authorities. His involvement with these criminal activities began on January 2012 with the arrest of Jacob Theodore George IV, or Digital Link. With his seller account seized, investigators gained access to their Silk Road forum. But it wasn't until January 2013 and the arrest of Curtis Clark Green, the Silk Road admin who went by the name Flush, that authorities had control of the admin account with access to private messages and seller information. And this gave them direct access to the inner workings of the Silk Road marketplace. Yeah, so they basically dipped into accounts and blackmailed sellers and users.
So did they get 20 years or something? I wonder how long they got sentenced for, or the same as Ulrich, possibly. They certainly deserve it.
I'm going to scroll down and find out for you because there's still quite a lot of information here, which I think we can skip.
So while you're scrolling, is Ross Ulrich in prison or not?
Didn't you tell me that he'd just been pardoned by Trump?
Did
2 weeks ago.
Did I look it up? Yes, you're right. I did, actually. That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did. Okay, so Curtis Clark Green, the admin, had been offered a plea agreement based on legal documentation. But he would face a maximum 40 years in prison for possessing with the intent to distribute more than a kilo of cocaine.
Yeah.
One of the detectives, Force, pleaded guilty in 2016 to money laundering, obstruction of justice, and extortion under colour of official right. He was charged alongside Bridges, and their sentencing was scheduled for later in the year. No mention of Force or his corrupt partner Sean Bridges had made it into Ross Ulbricht's trial due to the spree of crimes that they committed, as investigators having been held under the seal of a grand jury at the time. After Ulbricht's arrest, Force continued to seize bitcoins under the aegis of his DEA authority, and up to the time of his arrest, the two men had stolen over $600,000 from Silk Road. Now, does crime pay?
Clearly.
In October,
well, no, it depends. Depends how rough a time he's having in prison.
In October 2016, Force was sentenced to 6.5 years.
Yeah, but obviously he can't keep his money.
You've got to find it first. While his partner, Sean Bridges, received a 2-year sentence. After the sentencing hearing, he announced before the court, "I would like to publicly apologise to the American people, the US government, to my friends and family. I'm sorry, I lost it. I don't understand a lot of it." He will be required to pay $337,000 in restitution.
So hang on a second. If Ulbricht was pardoned by Trump, does that automatically negate Force's crime?
No, because he was actually stealing from people's Bitcoin wallets. Ulbricht wasn't a thief.
Depending on how you look at it. No. Anyway, you still haven't got to the bit about the murder. What happened to his murder charge?
That's probably laying on file. I think they just kept that to one side. Because they figured 2 life sentences plus 40 years, he ain't coming out. Why waste any more money?
And I wonder if, I didn't know you could do it, but these presidential pardon malarkey, you can protect them against future prosecution.
No double jeopardy, as it were.
No, it's not double jeopardy, but infamously Biden pardoned Hunter Biden for any future prosecution as well.
Oh. So he's basically given him free license to go out and do what he wants.
Well, that's what Trump did, obviously. So he's not in prison. He's out and about. Do you think he's going to relaunch it? Silk Road 2.
It's too late because despite Silk Road being shut down, there's already a whole cornucopia of new sites that serve the same function.
Are there?
Yep. Something that has called into question whether the government can ever truly prevent dealers from selling online. And the answer is quite clearly no. It's like the war on drugs in America with Reagan. I mean, what a waste of time and money. You can't win the war on drugs, especially when you're the world's biggest drug dealer yourself.
No, you're right. But, the thing is, you, in your previous life, you never talk about friends of yours who actually ended up dying of overdoses or literally ended up in the ditch on the side of the road with needles sticking out of their arms.
Yeah, but that's because I didn't have any friends.
No, but you moved in those circles, nightclubs and music and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, and
everybody you came into contact with, if it's even stupid to say, were responsible drug users. I mean, I worked with loads of cocaine addicts, loads of them over the years. I worked in the city, but
it was
they
the
were
norm.
Functioning.
It
they
was
were
the norm.
Functioning.
It
Exactly.
was the norm. I did know a couple of proper junkies over the years, I guess, who injected heroin, but that was something that I personally kept out of my circle. That's
no, but
the only point I'm making
is that the only point I'm making is our experience of drug users is not people living on the pavement in a zombie-like state because they're addicted to fentanyl.
No,
I mean, we've never experienced anything like that.
Or bath salts. I mean,
or whatever.
People today take anything that's advertised on TikTok.
No, but quite literally. So the point is, I'm saying that you can never win the war on drugs. Well, you can actually, by introducing the guillotine into American justice system and start guillotine people like the Sackler family.
No, but
what?
You
Why
can't.
Not?
No, that's not going to win a war on drugs, is it?
Well,
it's just going to punish one family.
Yeah, but they're the ones that have been shipping out 5,000 tons of fentanyl every day or whatever the hell the thing is. Oxycontin or whatever it was.
But that's
a pretty good start, isn't it?
Well, it would have to be a start, but the problem is that the addiction is already there. It's already real.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen. I don't even like seeing these things, but have you seen some areas of California and, even quite respectable towns where you have literally people living on the pavement who are in a zombie-like state?
I mean, there's a whole underclass.
It can't all be fake news. I mean, they're literally driving past and there's people slumped over just waiting for their next fix of Oxy or whatever it is.
There's a whole underclass in Las Vegas of people who basically live in the sewer tunnels.
Yeah. I mean, this is 2025. It's not some dystopian fantasy land. It actually exists. So I think you've got to do something.
Yeah, but unfortunately, nobody wants to deal with them. It's like sex workers in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. If somebody murdered them, nobody cared. And it's the same with drug addicts today. Nobody cares enough. They're other. They're less than. They're not us. So therefore, they don't count.
No, well, that's why I think, even if it is just a gesture, you've got to you can't normalize it. Yeah, you can't normalize the situation. As I say, we haven't been touched by any of this. As I say, I don't know what proportion of the staff where I worked were coke addicts, but I don't know, would you know 10%, 20% of people were coke addicts? 10%.
In the city,
Yeah.
70.
No,
I'm telling
70.
you. I'm
No, it
telling
wasn't
you.
70. Now, I'm not talking about people who used coke. I'm talking about coke addicts.
Yeah, I mean, they would literally have it delivered to work. They would have it couriered to work.
Well, I mean, it was only the early days, but I would say out of an office of maybe 100 people, I wouldn't say more than 5 or 10 were actually... I mean, you could tell a coke addict because they would start after lunch, and as the afternoon went off, their visits to the bog would get more and more regular.
See, you're wrong. You can't tell a coke addict because they would not be discovered by you. They're the ones who start before breakfast and continue throughout the day, but function absolutely normally.
Well, definitely there were people who you could tell were definitely under the influence. So you're saying they were just the casual users.
Yeah, they were
the real
the puppies.
hardcore addicts. You wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's out. So the simple fact is Ulrich's out.
I don't think the Silk Road itself posed a massive problem for America. I think it was just an entrepreneurial idea that the government didn't like. It certainly didn't generate the amount of illegal income that sort of warranted the investigation and the scale of the investigation that followed. I don't think they took anyone really off the streets that was a danger to society.
No, but they, it depends if you believe that the drug trade is, sort of acceptable.
It is acceptable.
Oh,
it has to be acceptable.
Well, that's fine then. That's your position. I've never been directly involved myself. I do have an attitude. No, because I don't want, if you had a vulnerable child, someone who's easily influenced, that's literally what's happening on the streets, even in Sweden. You get these 13, 14-year-old boys who are given drugs by criminals, and then they're sent off to throw grenades into shop windows.
Yeah, because the governments, while selling you all sorts of drugs, will not allow anyone else to sell drugs. Make cocaine available, make cannabis available, make it legal, and all these problems will disappear. Instead of which, they go half and half. So, all right, we'll make marijuana legal in certain places, but only if we control it and tax it. You have to buy it from here. You have to do it. Fuck off. It's just like, just give it up.
I'm sorry, but no, that's just that. There's no logic. There's no evidence to support your position. If
That's
you simply,
because they won't allow evidence to come out.
Well, you can't get more legal than oxycodone. That was legal.
Yes,
it was completely legal. It was actually prescribed by doctors
to anyone who fucking asked for it.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying that, but
if you legalize cocaine, or you don't even have to ask for it, you're saying you just give it out to anybody who wants it.
I didn't say give it out freely, but just stop prosecuting people.
No, but you were saying that if you legalize it, the problem would go away. There's certainly a lot of argument to support that, but all I'm saying is you can't get much more legal than oxycodone.
Yes,
and that's killed tens of thousands of people.
Yes, which is more dangerous than any of the drugs that people buy illicitly.
Yeah, but look what happened to the people. What about all those dead people who were zombified?
Fentanyl and OxyContin.
All right,
marijuana
so you're saying
do
marijuana.
That to you?
All right, so you're saying marijuana's okay, but you included cocaine
harmless.
and other things. Well, unless you become psychotic. But anyway, whatever. It's just we have different attitudes on drugs.
Yes.
And I think we have a very blinkered, is that the right word? Blinkered experience of what drugs are like.
I don't know. I think I've had a pretty rounded experience of people on drugs.
Well, how many of your friends have died of drug overdoses?
All of them.
God's sake. You mean you didn't have any friends?
No, none of them. I mean, there were a
Yeah,
couple.
that's exactly that's the point I'm making.
There were a couple of people who certainly their drug use would have contributed to their overall health condition. Especially, I mean, cocaine does stress the heart out a bit.
Does it? I don't know.
And if people are doing cocaine on a daily basis, their heart will suffer. And I did have one friend, I won't name him. He was a regular.
Had a heart attack.
Well, he basically died on a dance floor on holiday in Greece a few years
It's not
ago.
a bad way to go, but how old was he?
He was the same age as me, I guess. So it was about 20 years ago.
Oh, all right. So he was in his 40s and he dropped dead on a dance floor. Okay, well, that's not good, is it? He wasn't 60 when he dropped dead on the dance floor.
No.
Who was he dancing with?
Knowing him, probably 3 18-year-old girls.
Well, there you go. Oh.
He went happy anyway.
Anyway, so Ulrich's out. You're happy about that. I'm not so happy about it, but we did get to the end of the story after 3 episodes.
Yeah, I don't particularly like the American way of sentencing people to 512 years. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but he didn't serve 512 years.
No, but he would have if Trump hadn't stuck his oar in. So at least he's done one decent thing.
In your mind.
Yeah.
So are we saying that he wasn't guilty of this ordering the murder of someone?
No, he was never tried for it. It looks like, as far as I can see. And also, with the corrupt fucking DEA agents and all the rest of it, whose evidence can you believe in this case anymore?
Well, you're not disputing the existence of the Silk Road.
No, but I'm disputing now the evidence of any police officer in this case, because 2 of them have already siphoned off $500,000 in Bitcoin. So how can you trust anything that any of them say? They've compromised the whole. Yeah, it's all tainted. They've compromised the whole investigation. Anyway, that's the end of our Silk Road adventure.
Thank God.
No,
I mean, it was mildly
that was
interesting.
Absolutely interesting.
Yeah. Even I would accept that.
And next week we're going to go on to, I'll give you a clue. We're going to go on to something a little bit more mysterious, which everybody, because this is a very divisive case, everybody has an opinion on. But my opinion is
and what
right.
is it?
I
can prepare my arguments.
I will tell you.
No, I want
will tell you what
notice.
your opinion is next week. So thanks for listening, everyone. Don't forget, you can find lots more stuff on our Patreon. There are lots of free episodes, and if you like them, you can become a patron, buy us a coffee, buy us a beer, and listen to a lot more. We'll be back. Meantime, next week,
Sunday, next week. Yep. You've got to change my name.
What,
King.
Mark?
No.
What should we call you next week? Should we call you Leslie?
All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So, yeah. We'll see you next week. Have a good week.
Remember to press the right button.
Oh, yeah. Don't do anything that we wouldn't do, which gives you a pretty much free range. And if you do start an internet marketplace, send me free samples. That's the best idea I ever heard. See you next week.